Volunteer Week, which is a celebration of the individuals and families who come together to support NEDA here throughout its different programs and services. And this week is an opportunity for us to reflect on what we have accomplished, what we're currently doing, and what we need to do in the future in order to strengthen NEDA's mission. And none of this is possible without the tireless efforts from walk volunteers, legislative advocates, NEDA Awareness Week volunteers, body project facilitators, conference volunteers, NEDA ambassadors, clinical advisors, helpline volunteers, forum moderators. The list goes on. And right now, like, this is a time where everyone's life is so disrupted and continues to be disrupted. So it's more important than ever to highlight and thank the folks that have been able to still have their commitment, give their time and their efforts to supporting those who are affected by eating disorders. And today we're getting to share one of our volunteers with you here on the Connections video with Alex Mutti, who's originally from Dallas, Texas. Hi, Alex.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for choosing to do this. And so Alex helps out on the helpline. She's a volunteer on the helpline, and she's from Dallas, Texas, but moved to New York about 8 years ago to pursue a career in acting. And however, after that, her plans changed when she began to have her own battle with an eating disorder. And thanks to her incredible treatment team, Alex is nearly 4 years recovered and will begin coursework towards her master's in social work at NYU this fall. She hopes to be able to help others struggling with eating issues the way her own therapist did, and loves being able to offer support through her volunteer work with NEDA. So, Alex, let's talk about how you found yourself coming to NEDA and the helpline in the first place. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so NEDA was something I always kind of knew about and admired when I was going through my own struggle, especially before I was able to open up and talk to people about what I was dealing with. I was always kind of checking out the NEDA website and looking at the resources and, weighing the pros and cons. And especially once I had started my recovery, something that kept pushing me forward in recovery was the thought that, if I get through this, when I get through this, I can use this experience to help other people who are going through it, or help prevent other people from going through the same thing that I went through. And so that was something that was always kind of in the back of my mind that I knew I would want to do once I was able to. And so, especially with, you mentioned I'm going to get my master's in social work, and leading up to applying for social work, and I was working in a restaurant. I didn't really, I'd stopped acting. I wasn't in school yet, and I was really looking for something to fulfill me and to give me a sense of giving back. And so that was when I decided to apply. And I'm so glad I did. I've been a volunteer for almost a year now, and I love doing it. I find it very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's something that, and I forgot to introduce myself real quick. So my name is Harry John Shepard. I am a supervisor on the helpline. I was a volunteer previously, and now I'm a staff member on there. And Alex, what you just said is something that is the experience that so many people have, that like there's this, this rewarding feeling, a sense of satisfaction they get from helping out. And what has been really fortunate for us in the planning with the helpline is the fact that it's able to be worked on remotely by people with our volunteers. And so I think people listening might also be curious as to how COVID-19 has impacted your specific volunteer experience in any way, in the beginning and maybe now as things are starting to fall into a bit of a rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the fact that it was remote before all this happened definitely made kind of the transition a little bit easier. Sorry, my dog is whining at me. He's just going to sit on my lap.
Yay!
So it definitely made the experience and the transition a little bit easier. But I will say something that has been different during this time that I think a lot of people are dealing with is that, eating disorders and recovery from eating disorders is hard enough. And adding on top, and quarantine is hard for everyone if you're, regardless of whether you're dealing with a disorder. It's a change in our normal routine, and it's not, quote unquote normal.
Right.
And I think the battling an eating disorder and then having to be isolated on top of that, we're hearing from people every day on the helpline that it's really hard. And it's something I said to my own therapist, like, I am so glad that I am recovered, because I can't imagine trying to recover or battling the eating thoughts while in isolation. And so I do think, it's great that the NEDA helpline exists, and that, so many professional providers are switching to telehealth so that, people can get the support and help that they need. But it's definitely, it's been different. I think it's affecting everyone who's calling into the helpline.
Yeah, and like you said, there are options out there, right? And that's something that, we've been doing, is making sure that people are aware that there is telehealth, that there are still opportunities for people to get support, from wherever stage they may be in, or whoever they'll be calling on behalf of, looking for help. So with that in mind, in terms of things that you have been, like the new things that are coming up now, and maybe just over your time, before we started recording, you said that you've been on the helpline, for just about like a year now at this point. So in terms of maybe something that came to you that you've learned, or things that kind of maybe rose up within your own journey with your time on the helpline now, especially going into your MSW, is there anything that comes to mind with what you're going to be taking away, or maybe ways that you'll be carrying through more of your kind of helpline work as you keep going forward?
Definitely. There are so many things, but I think something that really I truly realized once I began volunteering, it was something I knew, but it became very evident when working on the helpline, is that eating disorders don't discriminate on who is affected. Oftentimes people think that there is a certain demographic that is affected. And, obviously I knew that wasn't the case, but I think, we have people of all ages, all backgrounds, from everywhere call into the helpline that are battling with these issues. They're complicated and severe mental illnesses, and that doesn't just affect one certain type of person. And I think for me, it kind of, I hope it gives other people comfort to know that, you aren't alone in what you're dealing with. You aren't the only person of, your gender, your age, whatever it may be, that's dealing with it. It might feel like it at times, definitely. There's so much misinformation out there. It's easy to feel that way, but eating disorders, and all mental illnesses for that matter, don't discriminate on who they affect.
Yes, exactly. And that idea that people call up and they're coming from so many different places, so many different identities, and they don't know what even to expect. And that's, to kind of shout out the helpline and all the volunteers for a moment. That's what's so special to me about the work that you and all the rest of your colleagues on the helpline do, is that you guys meet people where they are. Because people sometimes call up and the first thing is I don't know if I'm calling the right place. And because you guys are doing what you do, the answer is always yes,
Right.
Which is important. So you have you work on the helpline. You've got your schooling coming up in the fall. Right now, COVID-19 is throwing things into a little bit topsy-turvy, but what else? How else do you like to spend your time usually, in terms of either work or hobbies or anything else?
Yeah, so I was a bartender, so I am currently out of the job. But so filling the time, I've got my dog, and I'm with my dad's right now, and they also have 2 dogs. So spending a lot of time with animals has been really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I also, I haven't been able to spend this much time with my family since, before I was in college, and I never thought I would be able to spend this much time with them as an adult. So it's been really wonderful getting to spend that quality time. And one of my dads and we both love RuPaul's Drag Race, and we haven't seen a lot of the earlier seasons. So we've created this tradition of during the weekdays in the afternoon, we pour a little glass of wine and we watch a couple of episodes of Drag Race, and it's been a really nice thing to look forward to during these days. And I think that's what's important during this time is find things to look forward to, find things that you're excited about doing, even though you're stuck in your house.
Right. Yeah. That's such a good point, right? And that's because right now there are, within all the disruptions and all like the difficulties, there's opportunities. And maybe you just answered that question, but you just made me think, like, throughout this and the time and space you now have, like, this is the NEDA Connection series. So in your own life, has there been any surprising or new reconnections or even like new connections that you found yourself making throughout all this?
I mean, that's the other thing is I've got so much time on my hands. I'm, Zooming and video chatting with friends that I haven't talked to like that in ages because we're all sitting around. So it has been really nice to connect with friends that I haven't been keeping up with and that I haven't been talking to. And I think it reminds you that, friendships and relationships are really important.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. That's been my experience too. And like in line with the Connection series, and as we are wrapping up here, thanks again for joining us, Alex. And
thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, and for representing the helpline, because and so now's going to be one last time to kind of shout out the helpline specifically for everyone. So anyone who thinks that maybe they could benefit or they want to access our resources on the helpline, whether that's the phone version or the chat version. The phone version, you can find us at 1-800-931-2237. And the helpline, the phone version is open at 11 a.m. every weekday Eastern time, and then closes at 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday through Thursday, and then closes at 5 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. And then we have our chat version of the helpline as well, which opens a little earlier. It opens at 9 a.m. Eastern every day. And you can be calling for someone else. You can call because you just are wondering if maybe there's some other resources you don't know about. Doesn't matter. And also, in terms of other ways to connect, like Alex was talking about earlier in terms of finding ways to give back and what feels rewarding, we are always looking for more folks to join the party. And we have different opportunities to volunteer, not just on the helpline, though, of course, I'm going to shout out the helpline specifically. So you can also go to our website, nationaleatingdisorders.org, and there's a section called How You Can Get Involved with NEDA in your area. Or rather, it's called the Get Involved section, where you can find out how to get involved in many different ways with the National Eating Disorders Association. Or you can email us at info@myneda.org for that. So thank you so much for joining us today, because NEDA doesn't just believe that we can just stay connected. We want to further connections. We want to keep everyone finding more ways of connecting. So we've got our forums on the website too. If you're looking for support groups, even that's something that we can put you in touch with on the helpline as well. So reach out here on Facebook. You can reach out on Instagram. Talk to us, let us know how you're doing, and if there's anything we can do to help out. So thanks again for joining us right now and checking this out. Alex, one last time, this was awesome. It was awesome to get to talk to you real quick, and I'll see you again on one of our shifts.
Yeah, see you then.